to have access to that. So good morning. Thank you. And for some of you, this is the end of your morning. For some of you, it is the beginning of a day. I think we have someone going to be joining from Australia, so it's in the middle of the night for them. And I love that we have the ability to do this. And just pause for a second. If you have your top 5 strengths and you've already taken the test, go ahead and write it in the comments. And you can in the chat box, and so that you can see who's present here and put yourself on the map. And my top 5 are connectedness, strategic, relator, achiever, and activator. So in this space, even in this room, there's no accident to me who's here on this call with us right now. So I just want to say that, like, I don't do accidents, because connectedness is number 1. If that's you too, just give me a wave. But there's magic here, because we have a group of people gathering this morning and who will be watching this recording, and none of us are the same. So we have a whole room full of unicorns. Really, you are that unique. We actually have data on that, which is really cool. And the data on that says that 1 in 33.4 million people would have your same top 5 in the same order. 1 in 12.2 trillion would have your same top 10. So that is pretty phenomenal. In fact, 1 in 278,000 would have your same top 5 in random order. And there is a website that you can go and register, put your strengths on there and see if you have a strengths twin. My sister did find hers, and they were in Russia. But as some of you know, they haven't replied, and it's been over a year. So she was very, very excited to find somebody, but then, yeah, so they were less excited. But there is a way to do that if you're curious and wondering, like, you know, what your wiring is compared to somebody else's. So in talking about this tool, and again, this call is super practical, like, what is the strengths assessment? I want to cover how you're going to take it. What are you going to do with the data? And if you can, this date here, August 16th and 17th, I'm just using some slides. These are available for your team if you want the slides, and then you can put your own team meeting in there. Okay. So let's see here. So the Clifton Strengths Assessment, it's almost going to be Strengths Day very soon here, the anniversary of Donald Clifton. And this is evidence-based approach to increasing engagement. It's an evidence-based approach to creating connection. The way that I use it is more of with my number 1 connectedness, I'm using and integrating in it because I want you to change your life. I want you to learn how to keep your word to yourself. I want you to inspire others to actually go and follow through on the things that they've said or that matter to them. I want you to figure out where your genius zone is, because when you do that, so much comes into alignment for you and you make an amazing impact. We know, because of how much research there's been, that these, at minimum, your team could be 6 times as likely to be engaged, 7.8% more productive, 3 times as likely to have an excellent quality of life, and 6 times as likely to do what they do best every day. And so in that space, when you think in terms of you personally, as you're listening to this, where do you want to be more engaged? Which of your relationships could use some more connection and some more intimacy? Which of the people that you're mentoring, if you are mentoring, do you ever notice that sometimes you just don't quite vibe the same? With some people, they're wired so different than you, and your energy, you can just tell that it's a little more difficult to know what to say to help them achieve their goals. And I feel like Strengths puts us all on this map where you can actually have some data and figure out what it is they're needing. The assessment was based on 50 years of research. So 50 years, so that's a lifelong work, and his belief in that, I mean, it's so powerful. And the very first book over the years, you could have found StrengthsFinder 1.0, Tom Rath and some scientists at Gallup created 2.0, which is that white book with the red cover that you see out in the stores. You can find it everywhere. You can also get it downloaded for free when you take the assessment at gallupstrengthscenter.com. So, discovering the one true you. This assessment right now is on sale if your people haven't taken it or you want to upgrade your strengths. There are 34 different themes. The top 5 you get for $19.99, and then you're able to unlock the rest of your results Right now, I think you can do that for $39.99. There's no penalty for doing it in 2 installments, but you can buy the assessment and unlock the full results right away. And I think that's on sale for $59. So there's no penalty to just do the $20 now and unlock more later. Although it is on sale right now, and it has been on sale for like 6 months, but I don't know when it's coming down. So unlock the rest of yours if you haven't. Okay. So we just shared those. That's some of the books. The website is really awesome. If you haven't gone on and looked at your reports, utilize the website. You have insight reports on there. They've actually just redone some of the theme dynamics, and so you can actually get a really great look and spend some time exploring your themes. When you're meeting with people, have them bring their insight reports. You don't have to have all that strengths data in you. Ask them to bring those insight reports when you're meeting with them. There's also a really cool app, which is called Clifton Strengths. And then you can access, I have mine right here. All of my clients know when they come to session, they need to be able to have access to their strengths. And so you're able to just pull up your strengths right away and then read the descriptions and keep it at top of mind, which is powerful. We're going to talk about why that's important in a minute. The strengths, the data itself, we could cover all of those 34 themes, but really if you're not committed to your own development, those talents might be in the basement, or some of them might be in the balcony, but they do need to mature. So what we know is it's a talent in and of itself. You have to add a skill to it for it to become a strength. So the talent in and of itself is just raw. You have to add something to it in order for it to really work for you. I'm going to share a little bit of my own story here. Why am I so passionate about this? This whole concept of adding that skill set or adding it to something. In 2004, I fell in my garage and I ended up spraining an ankle. And I remember reading on my discharge paper that day when I went into the doctor, hysterical woman. And I thought, oh, that's fantastic, which is an appropriate terminology when a woman is upset and coming in. But this idea of hysterical woman, it hit me because I was in the most amount of pain that I've ever been in my life. And at that moment, the way I've interpreted how people were with me in that moment is it was appearing weak. But then 3 weeks later, they're like, oh, you're not healing. 6 weeks later, they're like, what's going on with your other leg? 8 weeks later, what's going on with your hand? And this pain and spasming and burning and swelling spread through my entire body within 2 months. And I was diagnosed with reflex sympathetic dystrophy. So after coming through that, and really it was a 10-year journey, in the middle of it, at the peak, I ended up at a very low point relationally because I had a whole identity crisis. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I had to raise children. My marriage fell apart because I was suddenly immobilized in a wheelchair oftentimes, looking for specialists across the country, in the hospital, having seizures all night long. And this is the worst pain on the McGill Index. It's worse than amputation, 24/7, year after year after year. So when I took the strengths test in 2007, I already had 3 years into that, and I was severely depressed and faking it, which I can do very well. And I know a lot of you here are really great at faking it too. So in that faking it, and I looked at those strengths results and I thought, these are the top 5 ways I beat myself up right now. This is like, what do I even do with these? Because I couldn't produce. Like, what do you tell an achiever theme when they don't know what to measure anymore because they're not going to be able to get their work done? What do you tell a strategic theme when they want to know the end of the road and they want to pick up all of the pieces and build this map? But the end of that map, they're telling you you're never going to walk again. That was not the story I wanted. My futuristic was freaking out because that wasn't the future that I wanted to paint. So it allowed me to actually get really in touch with what was not working and then start aiming those towards creating connections and helping myself get well. But it isn't the strengths alone that do that. What I've realized is that just in how we relate to our own gifts, we're using all of those strengths to betray ourselves. You're doing it right now today. If you aren't clear and intentional and aiming those at something, they're also how you survived and how you got here up until now. So when you're looking to mentor and work with people and grow a team or build your own business, you have to first reharness the power of those. And we have to have a conversation about how you judge your own weakness how you judge your worth. And when you're looking at others, how are you holding them? Are there certain strengths as they take those tests? Are you in your head about whether or not they have the right strengths, or you have the right strengths to actually get to your goal? Are you judging what people need in their season of life and in their business? That's the real conversation that happens in people's heads when they take this test. It's like, am I going to be able to do this? So even though I love the data and I'm all about these themes, all 34, I know what they need. I know what they contribute. I know what their triggers are, what they expect of themselves and others. I know what they look like in overuse. I can read palms with this, and I will read yours at the end if you want. But even with all of that data, it all comes back to this space of how are you using these to sabotage what you're up to? How are you holding and framing the value of others? And are you open to looking at how you deal with your own vulnerability and how you support others to become more authentic? Which means we have to get out of our heads about how we view people. Because nobody, I showed you that data, nobody is viewing anything in the exact same way. So this data actually becomes an opportunity for you to be in relationship. What everybody I've met in over 8,000 hours of doing this work, what everybody I've met is looking for is this. They want this phrase, they post it on their mirror, every single team. They're afraid that others aren't going to view it in this way, but they're desperate to say, I know who I am, I know who I'm not, and both are okay. If we want to build vibrant teams, we need this to become a part of the culture, which means, as you know, like for women in business, if you have high confidence, what do they call you? You can type it in the chat box. If you have high confidence as a woman and low vulnerability, we have names for each other, ladies. We have names. And if we had a man with high confidence and low vulnerability, he gets a very different name. He might even get a raise, because that is how our culture works, especially in the United States. So there's something about this place of where we want to show up in a certain way. We want our themes to be always in their awesomeness. And we are not always awesome. We are not. And when you're too confident and you're not being authentic, you're less awesome and your strengths will get triggered. And when you feel vulnerable and you're worried that you're appearing weak, you also don't feel awesome. And we all have a little show as we're trying to navigate and use these strategies to connect and achieve and perform and build our lives. We all have a show. Some strategies that really show up, but we can identify what those are and embrace them and have a little more fun with it when we start viewing the confidence and the vulnerability is equal. When I know who I am and I know who I'm not and both are okay, and that is the no judgment zone that I create for you when we do our work together, I am able to see you in a light way. I'm able to speak authentically. I'm able to go right to the truth. I'm able to look at numbers with you and encourage you and figure out like how you got to where you are and how that's working so that you can get back up and figure out what it is you want to create. Because we all have exactly what we've created. You made a million choices to have what you have right now. But this place of thinking about for yourself, how authentic do you get to be while you're leading right now? Wherever you are, how authentic do you feel you get to be? When you think of the people you're working for and with, what's their perception of vulnerability to you? Do you feel like there's an avatar that you've had to put out into the world to come in? When we're navigating this vulnerability piece, we actually don't step into our optimal zone, which I want to talk to you next about. This vulnerability piece, if you're hiding your vulnerability or trying to appear confident, you actually just betray yourself. You use your strengths to hold yourself back. And that self-betrayal is what will be your Achilles heel in your leadership. We can get super specific and you can identify how you do that by just starting to look at this data with your top 5. This is your autopilot. That means no matter where I go, using my strengths for an example, I, in my autopilot, am trying to be mindful and create action. I want clarity. I want a tribe of people around me with my relator number 3. I want activation. I want us to grow together forever. Like everybody jump on board the strengths train and let's go create something really cool and help people get out of self-judgment. That's my dream, my big dream. Removing the judgment so women can step up and stop being ashamed and go support people. If we removed judgment, imagine what would happen. Imagine how many more people you could follow up with because you wouldn't be in your head. It would be insane what we could release in that. So this place of how I view my talents is I look at these top 10 as my guides. I look at them as my board of directors. And this board of directors is advising me. They each have a specific need. So that means when I'm leading a team, everybody there also has a board of directors, and that's a lot of internal conversation. So there's the conversation we're having and the conversation everybody's really having on the inside. And they're having many of them. Sometimes it's, what did I eat for breakfast? Maybe I had too much coffee. Sometimes it's, oh my word, the baby's waking up, or I'm going to have to nurse while I'm on the Zoom call, and it's okay if you have to. But there's all different kinds of backstories and distractions and things that are happening no matter where you are. That's how we're wired. When we become intentional and we start knowing when we get frustrated, which of our talents is not being fed, it has a need. It wants to show up. It actually helps you really develop yourself and become more acquainted with what the ingredients are for you to create your success story. And after you get really acquainted with yours and you start noticing, wow, all 15 of those top ones I can use on a daily basis, what needs do I have that aren't present that could explain the amount of disconnect I feel, the insecurity and imposter syndrome that I feel? What are the ingredients for me to feel confident to lead a class? What are the ingredients for me in relationship? And I really have found that by exploring this in this neutral way, really creatively, people have more confident lives. They move along, they progress, and they really supersize their leadership and impact. And it just will draw people to you like a magnet, because people are desperate to be seen and heard. Here's the other thing. As awesome as we are, even though I know we have shadow and light, that blind spot area, which is pretty much everything beyond 21, possibly 16, but that bottom 5, when you're meeting people or you're in your head because you can't predict what someone's thinking, or you're afraid they're going to attack you, or you just don't vibe, or you just don't approach the thing the same way, this is time for some blind spot inquiry. Blind spot is that the bottom, and you also need to get curious and access some curiosity when people are not approaching the world or your relationship the way that you do. So I love this data because it at least helps people who haven't done any personal development to acknowledge in just a neutral way. It's like, hey, you know what? We do all have blind spots. We do. And then it's okay. I know who I am. I know who I'm not, and both are okay. It can take some time to really master that. I have a couple charts, but this is really what we're doing here is we're trying to defy some gravity because we are judgers. We are wired for survival. So if you aren't aware that you're viewing the world through your own strengths lens, and then the strengths lens of others, we can't really shift to a new story. Strengths is about looking at what's working. Like when we're in that, we want to work on your optimal zone and figure out what those ingredients are. I'm going to have you tell me some stories when it was just energetic for you and you made an incredible impact. And we're going to get your brain back into that zone where it was all super working. And then we're going to leverage that and go take, a mindful action. We're going to leverage what's working and do more of what's working. And that actually moves you along towards your goal. So the opportunity for you is to learn how to support others to talk more about what's working so they get back out there and do it. Instead of analyzing what's not working and trying to mitigate that weakness, if we just know there's weakness, we know it. We can't avoid it. There will always be weakness. But you can talk about what's working and leverage that in your chemistry. Leverage it to create more action, to create more connection. This is the 4 domains. And so again, all of those 34 themes are divided into these 4 categories. Each of these categories, I don't want you to get all excited when you see you have influencing or worried that you don't have influencing, because this is just for strengths-based leadership. It just helps us to have a conversation about common needs. But you can influence with achiever, you can influence with empathy, you can influence with any of these themes. So don't put yourself into a container and resist the urge to box people up. This is what I use here when I'm creating team grids. Here's an example of that. So if I'm analyzing a team grid, I've analyzed grids up to 300 people. Personally, sometimes I've done a quick glance at 1,000. But when I'm looking at a team and I'm noticing some patterns in here and I'm able to advise somebody Like I can ask some questions about how they ended up choosing these people to work with, number one, because that's always curious. Like, oh, how did you attract that? What works about this currently? And when you're like, I want to teach a class, I want to know who's in the room. If you are looking to mentor people on your team, understanding what they're going to need and knowing how to have conversations, even if you just use this to draw yourself into a no judgment zone, you want to be doing a team grid. Before I meet with every person, we not only do a team grid and take a look at that, but I also want to map and figure out what is happening in the 4 domains in those categories. So here's just a little sketch that I did. But for example, this north pole is strategic thinking, this east pole is relationship building, the south is executing, and this west is influencing. So when I map a bunch of people's on top, we can really get a clear picture of how we work together. So every client that I work with, I put mine up there and theirs so that we have an understanding and it grounds us into that no judgment zone. So then we can talk about what we need to talk about. You have to set the conditions for those conversations. Also, some things that you can utilize for that are, one is the Theme Thursday podcast. And so you can go on iTunes, you can go on YouTube, you can go back to Gallup, and right away just start getting curious about your themes and support others to listen to those themes. And we have a program called Spark. Let me pause this share. So we have a program called Spark Your Strengths, which is I've taken all of the strengths data that I found out there, all of the links, and we created a 21-day challenge. 21 days is not like, really, are you going to do all of this self-mastery that I'm talking about in 21 days? Not exactly. But in that space for the strengths and in that space of 21 days, if you do a daily prompt, you're going to find all of this comes up top of mind. And that prompt is going to take you, it's going to remind you, hey, did you listen to a podcast today? It's going to take you through every single day thinking of like, what are these 4 domains? And then ask you a question about your team and your relationships. It's going to actually walk you through how to create a board of directors. And we do it with a collage and finding images that represent those voices. There's live group. There's like, we do Facebook Lives in there, and we do a live coaching session every month. So anybody that's in there can come on and join. I have several strengths coaches in there, and so there's also potential to get some coaching in the chat right there inside the group, any questions people ask. And so Spark Your Strengths is only $29.99. You can get it on my website, and I will post a link to it when I put this video up. And it's a way of like, hey, am I committed to get curious about mine and master myself and start looking at how I'm viewing others? And inside of that, it also ties it back to your goal, because yay for personal development, but if it's not helping you make more money and provide for your family and not helping your team keep their word to themselves, it's great data, but it can also be a distraction, especially learner inputs. I don't want to take you off of your learner mode, but as Monica asked earlier, how do you like wrangle that in? It is fantastic data, and there is so much. It will help you see people, but I want you to activate it towards goals and the word that you said that you were about. So you want to use this in the context of your personal goals. And then we can look at what is happening in your optimal zone. What are the activities where you don't feel like you're using your strengths? What are the activities that are depleting? And how can we figure out what it is that you need in order to be able to achieve those goals? Most people are using strengths because they want to perform and engage more themselves. The flip side of that is if you really take yourself on, you will learn very quickly how to support other people. How do you motivate someone even to be curious about this language? Language can be cumbersome. And so we're hoping that by coming in and jumping in that spark water with us, they're going to immerse in it. There's a lot of us speaking about it, and it'll just be a chance for them to every day for 5-10 minutes to just get into that mindset, come back into their genius zone, so that they are able to play big in their day. And let's see, I just saw Mary. I'm just seeing you couldn't see my slides. If you all missed my slides, I'm so sad. I don't know why that didn't work. That chat just opened for me. So they will be there on the recording because it was on my screen. So I'll make sure that you have access to those. And thank you. Did anyone else not see slides? I'm so sad. We'll have to do another pop-up. Okay. Somebody else saw them. Okay. So I'm ready to take your questions. I know this is a lot. Again, this is just like a pop-up. What is StrengthsFinder? So that's that first level of like, do people want to go spend 20 bucks on that? Do they want to go spend 30 bucks on Spark? Basic. The other thing I wanted to just share, let me see if I can open this other file for you, is I want to know where you are in your journey. So let's see if this is gonna open for me. So I have a graphic so that you can figure out when is the right time for you to do something like Spark. Like, how do you decide if now's the time for your team? So if you look here, here's an entrepreneurial journey. It's a leadership journey too. It's a life journey. It's all the journeys on here. You can find yourself on this map. So when people are starting out in a business, they're super excited, they're focused, they're doing all of this external learning. So the data of strengths is like, I should know my strengths. I just started this business. So over here, before this yellow, to the left of this yellow triangle, you're looking for tools, you're setting yourself up. This is a great time to do Spark, yes. Spark will be really a great external learning thing. It's meaningful, it's organized, so you don't have to go all over the internet to find what you need. And that was a major, all my input people needed to have that. And then there's enough engagement in the group for those of you with influencing where you can get feedback and talk and wrestle this out. All of my intellection people who need to look at the big depth and want to think about this, and share what they're learning and engage with that. This is just all available right here. Now, as somebody starts looking at it, here's what's going to happen. They're going to get to day 5 and they create that board of directors, and then they're going to have an anxiety attack. Just for a moment, because the story they'll tell you, especially whatever you're enrolling them into, is either something's wrong with them, something's wrong with the program, something's wrong with their upline, something's wrong with their partner. Because when we start getting into this space of self-worth, that doubt is so strong. It's gravity. It's kryptonite. So creating and maintaining this no judgment zone is so key, because this is what's happening. It's the psychology of human beings. So what we're asking is, we want to start helping people focus on what's right with them. So it's going to take a while to rewire that. But the reality, and those of you that know my work just begins here at this Raise EQ spot. I have people to help and coach you all the way up until that. Because when we're talking about team conflict, shifting a culture, looking at this big picture, changing your life, saving your marriage, creating all of that requires some character development. And it requires you raise your emotional intelligence. So if you are fed up with disconnect and judgment and gossip and all those things that can come into building a business when you are adding people to it, if you're fed up with that, this is where the real work begins. And we have a program for that also called Into the Looking Glass, which is available free for my individual clients. And also in that, we're talking about authentic conversations. So yes, I learned my strengths. I see their strengths. So now how do I show up for that? So there's some equipping and some learning you have to do. That's a deeper dive that we do within the Looking Glass group. If you are looking, I want financial freedom, and I want to be free, and I want to have joy, and I want to attract all of that stuff, and you want to be over here at this freedom place, and you want that heroic journey of I know who I am, I know who I'm not, and both are okay. You can't get there without this door of honesty called despair. You can't get to freedom if you're not having some real conversations about the reality in your life and business. It doesn't happen. You can spiritually bypass it, and you can stay motivated and just pretend none of those things are there until you burn out. But you can't get over here and have it sustain and run itself and attract all the people you want if you don't really look at what you've created and how you made that happen. So yes to the strengths and all of this, but it's a gateway to this deeper stuff. And the reason I mention this is that I want you to get to freedom. That's my personal mission, is that we free each other up. With a no judgment zone, we can get there in a very short period of time, but it does require some honest conversations. So you'll see I offer retreats with my colleague, Jean Marie Jobs. Our next one is in Colorado on April 29th, and I think there's 5 spots left for that. That's a higher level retreat, but we're going to deep dive and we're going to go through this transformation piece in 3 days so that you can get here faster. Individual clients, we take about 10 sessions to kind of work through here, and then you get to revisit the Looking Glass group coaching as many times as you want, because this is a journey. There's no 10 steps over to freedom. So you need to find where you are on this map. And when you're talking to people about coming into strengths, they may be early on. They may not be at stake for a lot of people yet, or in their own entrepreneurial journey. They just need some schools, and that is so great. Use Spark. Let's just focus on what's working and do that stuff. But if you are mentoring people or in life has happened to you, then you want to be thinking about where you're going to do that deeper work and use this to kind of as a catalyst to move through and grow your emotional intelligence. It really depends on what your vision is for those relationships. So I hope, does that map help you to understand like when does this stuff work and how far to go in? I hope it's helpful. And I'm happy to take your questions now, and you're free to unmute and ask me any question that you want. Any questions? Anybody want me to give you a little feedback on your top 5? Anybody curious about your strengths? So feel free to unmute and read them out loud. Give me a wave and I'll call on you so you know it's time.
Hey, Kate.
Yes.
I was just thinking, because I asked you that question earlier about the learner and the completion. And for me, and this is me being vulnerable, which I don't like to be so much, is if I'm not doing something or learning something, like how do I change my mindset to just be okay with just being and sitting as a learner? That's a great
question. Like how do I release that energy into just being present?
And just being present and not being like, oh my God, I'm bored. Like I watched all the seasons of Grey's Anatomy last night because I was like, I'm not taking a class. I'm not doing anything. I'm just, I'm just sitting.
Yeah. So my first coaching question is like, I'm like, ooh, what are you avoiding feeling right now?
Right.
Like, because your strengths are strategies to keep you safe, right? We use them.
Right.
So they're working. So how are they working? It's like, oh, what am I not want to be present with right now?
Yeah. Ignoring my family.
Right.
Ignoring my husband.
Yeah. So busy is a strategy. Checking out is a strategy, but sometimes checking out is right.
Sorry.
Checking out doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Are there strengths? So what I love about Monica, she's already identified which of her strengths is, like she goes to curiosity and ideas and learning and developing as a way of moving out of discomfort. So then the question for all of you as you're hearing that is, which of my strengths help me to move out of discomfort? Which of my strengths are helping me? Like what is your show of avoidance or self-care is also possible. Oh, great. Maranatha has one in here too. Okay, great. Alicia's here. Restorative, individualization, relator, adaptability, and strategic. Okay. Okay, awesome.
I can't find how to put my face back on the screen. I can't see myself.
You can't see yourself. Look at the top right, and there is a, and I purposely, for me, I put it on gallery because I want to see everybody at the same time.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. I had to hide my face so I could see the chat box.
Perfect.
Okay, here's Alicia.
Hi. Okay. Hi, Alicia. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Restorative individual. Oh, you are a unicorn detector.
Yeah, I've been told that.
Yeah. Do you have groups of friends that don't know each other?
Absolutely.
Like you couldn't possibly throw one party and bring all of those people in.
Never. Never.
I love it. Individualization's my number 11. Let's see. So I love this. Restorative wants to make things new. And restorative it can be problem solving. So sometimes if it's in an overuse, it can feel like it's fixing. But when you're partnering with restorative, Maranatha, you lucky girl with this, I'm telling you, this is so great. Because restorative has energy for problem solving. So it doesn't mean necessarily that they are the one to solve the problem, but solving problems is less frustrating for them.
See, that's the thing. It's like I have the energy and the passion, and then I fizz out. But before you started speaking, I said we need to put everybody's strengths in a
Spreadsheet is
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And then he said it, and I was like, woohoo!
Well, so you just have to be strategic about your partners, because that strategic restorative, like just because you have the idea of what supports doesn't mean that you want to do it.
Right.
Also noticing when you're learning, individualization needs to customize things. So individualization as a learning strength needs to customize things for its own understanding. So when you do Spark with Maranatha, you can send me little things and say, hey, can I do it this way? Or how about if I do it this way? Can I do it up? Can I do day 6 and then day 2? You might have to do that as you're learning and make it work for you. And so you have autonomy to be able to do that. And so that, right, it's like giving yourself permission to go with what works for you, because that's your genius.
Right.
Like your ability to see it and decide and move and flow with the map, and the adaptability is strategic is like amazing. My husband has adaptability and I have strategics, because he has to he's got to react with his empathy adaptability to my show.
Well, I have felt
Sometimes loves to do.
I have felt lost for so long. Every job that I've gone to, I fix. I see what's wrong and I fix it. Tampa General, like the different places I've gone, I've done things to fix it. So then now being a stay-at-home mom, being a stay-at-home mom is great, but it's not as challenging as I would like. So I end up volunteering and doing all sorts of stuff.
So really, when you know that your adaptability is needs responsive and it's a first responder, you have to get really clear on what your yes is. Like that's your assignment right now, so that you are empowering that adaptability to aim it where you want it to go, because it will be something like it will pull you off track, because it's a first responder. You have an inclination and a flow about it, that you're inclined to be adaptable. But at times, if you're not really clear on what your vision is and your goal for each relationship, what you want to experience while you're home, and you're not clear on that, your adaptability could betray you. That's the language I like to use for that, which is, for some people that's not their lingo, but for me it's life or death.
So what did you mean by get clear on what my yes is?
So your yes, so when you, up until now, you have created a life and said yes to things at times that were a no. So like your mind, heart, and gut, you didn't get 3 yeses on some of those things. So what we notice when we do that, and so this is just the path of development, is some of us, it takes some time, it takes some work to figure out, is this a yes for me? Or is this a yes because I have a competing commitment of needing approval? Is this a yes for me because somebody else told me it's a yes and I want to be in alignment with that? Or I don't know what will happen if I say no. Or I'm not sure I'm not sure if it's a yes yet, but I felt like I needed to respond right now. And what I really needed was more time.
Or I don't know how to say no.
Or I don't know how to say no. So that might be a really great lens for you to just start in figuring out if my problem solving, if all I'm doing is mitigating my need for approval right now with these strengths. That strategy, that's not your genius zone. We're using that to survive, and you get to thrive. So if I'm thriving, what does my show look like? If I'm thriving. And what do I want to experience in my life? And then we start empowering ourselves to create that by making different choices in every moment. Awesome. We'll do more. Thank you. Anybody else? Let's see here. I see Josephine. Okay, so Sally is driving, and here are her top 5. Maximizer, learner, and another individualization. Awesome. Relator and ideation. Excellent. Hi, Sally. Hi, Sally. Okay. Oh, maximizer, learner. So you could set the very best goals for yourself that, like, when you have a goal, I would imagine it's supersized. But sometimes you don't always have the map to actually create that. So there's some level of disappointment with maximizers when they're goal setting. Are we close? Because it's like, oh, it should be this. So then the inner critic is just all over the map, because we can't quite, like, I know it can be this, and this is the expectation I set for myself, but I may not be able to activate that or create the steps or hold myself accountable to the steps to actually create it. Because even if you do, as soon as you hit what the original goal was, maximizer does scope creep. So it's just going to get better and bigger. So you just sort of have to make friends with the fact that your goal is flexible. It's always improving, right? So you just have to be in the tension of that. Let's see here. With also learner and individualization, I'm so curious, as you're mentoring people, Sally. I think I got to unmute you. Hold on. I'll unmute you. Here we go. Are you mentoring people? Okay.
I am starting to, I am going to graduate in 6 weeks as an Ayurvedic practitioner. So I am in the process of doing that. And then in 6 weeks, I'll be doing it professionally.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long road between now and 6 weeks.
Yes. Yes. So I'm wondering, when you picture yourself successful in that practice, I want you to use that ideation and spend some time examining what it's going to feel like with all 5 senses to, what thriving in that practice is going to look like for you. So that means what you're good at, what those successes are. You'll be able to identify those. But what way of being do you want to feel? Like, what do you want that when it's all working? What are you doing? What's energizing? And what is your greatest impact? Because Maximizer is about impact. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be just enough to build a tribe and you sort of help people and they're sort of getting healthy. You're going to want them to be committed, and you're going to be wanting to give them feedback, and you're going to want them to own the journey is what I make up by your strengths. And you're going to want to track their journey. Like, you want to see the progress and you want to see it turn out. You're not going to be a Band-Aid practitioner of just like, here, I hope you felt
Amen.
Right? Right. So it's like, so there's a play. Maximizer will give feedback, and it needs direct feedback. So you want to have people around you where you're setting that agreement with them of like, we're working together. Do I have permission to coach? Do I have permission to give you feedback? And then you can tell them, and you can adjust your energy. If I'm saying it too directly, just let me know. Give me a timeout sign if I go too fast. You'll be able to communicate and own your energy around that as you're moving. And it may take you some time to figure out where as you're building that practice, what parts you really, really love doing and who those ideal people are that you really love serving in that capacity. And it's okay for that to take some time. Your learner will just love that it's growing. And Monica Bravo, that's on here, would be a great person to connect with because there's some similar themes. Yeah, Monica. Oh, you actually piped in. Yeah, Maximizer learner too. So she would be a great person to connect with because she's pretty established in her practice and
nice.
Some great tools.
And I love Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a godsend. And I'm one of those people, go big or go home.
Yes,
so,
let's chat.
Yeah,
let's chat.
I have amazing goals for myself, and right now with having to get my thesis done and finish my consultations for graduation, I feel like I'm holding up the Empire State Building. But, I did it to myself too. So I'm not put off by it, but I cannot pick my nose up from the grindstone because, I've got a lot to accomplish.
I love your willingness to enter into the tension of the season. Like I'm hearing like it's not forever. It's like right now you're like, this is the 6 weeks. I can do it for 6 weeks. And that is such wisdom. That is such wisdom.
Yeah. I can get through this. Yeah. I see the light on the other side, and I know that, I have a lot of things that are pulling at my attention. And I'm like, I would love to do this, but I am committed to my goal. And if you can just wait another month or two, you'll have all my attention. But right now, I am committed to this, and I'm not going to waver.
That's awesome.
So,
excellent. Congratulations on the clarity.
Thanks.
It's great.
Thanks.
I'm going to do a couple more, and then I will give those of you that were live on the call, I have an application to do a free session. If you want to do a discovery, you want to get into your themes, I will do 5 of those from this call for all of you making time. And for those of you that are on here that aren't in Spark yet, I'm going to give you a code to get in for 99 cents today. And so if you are on here, I just want you to jump in. So, and you can use that code. I don't care how many times you share that code today, but it will expire today. And I have to, when I'm off this call, then I will post it in and I'll send it to you. So you get to come in for 99 cents. You can apply for a session. And I don't care who you share that with today. They all can come in for 99 cents until midnight today. So we're starting on Friday, day 1. I'll be doing a Facebook Live. It's a separate Facebook group because those people are committed to do the learning. So I like to keep it a little smaller so that we can have those deeper conversations. So that's my gift to you for being live today. And so if you haven't messaged me or we're not friends on Facebook, please send me a message. And that journey will start on Friday. But you'll get in as soon as you register. You'll have access. So, and that'll be fun. And we'll all go together. A couple more here of some strengths reflection. So Danielle says, harmony, empathy, individualization, input, and woo. Especially woo, what the heck? That's awesome. Oh, Danielle, are you still here? Let me move my little thing so I can see. I'm not sure oh, you are here. Okay, great. You're right in the middle. Okay. Harmony. Harmony with empathy. Everybody take a deep breath. Harmony sets the conditions. If it's triggered, it slows everything down. It is constantly trying to restore harmony. So it can feel like trying to mitigate an anxiety almost. It can be very weakness focused because it's so concerned with bringing things back to harmony, right? And not everybody plays that way. Like a lot of people have harmony in their bottom and that are driven in this space. Harmony's in my bottom 7, I think, or bottom 8. So people aren't even aware of their impact. So harmony, empathy, Danielle, you're like the truth teller. Like you see what's really happening, even under the surface, and you know it in your body. And you know uniquely what's happening and are willing to be with that. And you're going to want to give feedback. Most of the harmony people I've met have this deep longing to be heard. So as a child, they did not feel heard. Never. And they need, okay, yeah, you let me stop? Yeah, okay. It's so learning to set the conditions and speak up what you're seeing because it matters. And in this phase of your life, you get to speak up with authority on those things that you see. Sometimes people you'll feel them recoil because they weren't seeing it and it's blind to them. But I do feel like when we use this language, harmony gets a voice because it could say like, hey, you know what my harmony's tuned into right now that I'm noticing is this. And so you're actually opening up a space for them to hear you. You can learn to do that rather than just feel triggered, rather than just trying to dance around all of this other energy that's out there, because it's paired with empathy that also needs to be heard. That particular combination and individualization, which means and I had somebody with 4 of these top 5, which is really interesting, a couple years ago, and her parents own a winery, and she's like changing the world. She moved to New York. She works in sustainability. And so she's looking at this from a global perspective of what's happening in the earth environment. That's how she's tuned those. So she found a cause to speak to. And so she speaks just about that. And she built her confidence by staying in that lane. This is the thing I care about speaking. And as she practiced and had success in that, her relationships got easier. So she didn't practice in the hard part first, which is like terrifying, like jumping off a cliff. She found a zone where it was super easy for her and her genius could just work and roll that out. And as her confidence raised, she started taking risks in relationship. And I think she just got engaged, which is very cool. And so knowing that you get to practice where you feel like it's safe, and also looking at what am I settling for? Where am I settling for not being heard? And what do I need in that? That's going to be huge. Because woo.
Yeah, how does woo fit in with all that? That's what I was confused about was woo. Like
I know. What the heck? You're like, I'm a healer. And
I am. I'm a registered psychiatric nurse.
Oh, fantastic.
So it all kind of worked for me. And then, but when I read woo and when I read what it was, I was like, I do that. I always want people to like me, and I want everyone to get along. And I really dislike conflict.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made sense to me, but I thought, geez, like, how does that go together, winning others over? And
yeah, well, and it could be that might have been a strategy to survive all that depth. So when you're more grounded, or you're having that confidence is raised, woo drops a little bit. But it can also just be like a charisma of like you're able to create harmony in your energy for people. Like it's a way of service.
Yeah.
So like I can see people and I can talk about hard things in a light way, and I'm energized by doing that. And that's like, oh, woo's 21 for me. And so I'm just like, let's go to the abyss right now. We just met, cause I never later.
Well, that's, like my husband always says, he's like, is there anywhere we go where you don't meet a friend?
Sure.
Like it doesn't matter where we go. I will talk to whoever's sitting next to me, and then we exchange numbers. They're my friend. Everything's good. Right. Yeah. And I'll be like, did you know she has a blah, blah, blah. And oh my God. And my husband's like, really? Like when I called about the microwave that broke down, right? And the lady on the phone, we talked for 2 hours, and my husband was like, seriously?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Monica said you want them to like you in the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
You're like tracking. Am I doing it? Am I saying the right things? Is this, my daughter has, and I'm just like, I just need to stand by you while you win everybody over. Because it is energy, it's wave being. So your vibe of being in that space is probably pretty remarkable.
So now that I can't do what I did, like I can't, due to physical reasons, I can't, like, what should I do? What kind of work suits me? Like, what, do you know?
Well, I mean, I could intuitively say, it's not what you do for the work. It's you staying true and getting to know yourself when all of the cylinders are firing. And then it doesn't matter what you do. Like I do the same thing everywhere. I'm going to train a corporation tomorrow. Right. But I'm doing the same. I read palms there. Everywhere I go, I'm just looking at people as lovely, magical beings who have needs that haven't been expressed, who want to connect. And everywhere I go, that's what I'm supporting, and who need to speak up. So I help people speak their message. I help them with their marketing on one level, and I help them with, finding, where to aim their genius. What do they want to have that be? Or I'm working in high conflict. Like, how do we create more connection here? I'm always about creating connection with an audience, with each other, with your business, so that we can go change the world together. And so now that I know, so doing that development work and figuring out what is the one thing that you do everywhere, and owning that allows you some levity and flexibility, because individualization wants the flexibility. It's number 11 for me. I like variety in how I deliver the work. Like I'm happy to wake up with coffee and do a pop-up class. We had great attendance and just be with everybody. And there's no hard sell even, right? It's just like, let's just come and be in the water with us. And I know that the people, because I'm doing my one thing, the people who are ready to play big are going to find me because I know who I am in relationship for that. And so you getting clearer about that for all of you, wherever you go, because you're so clear and you know what your yes is and you know what your hell yes is. Cause I only do hell yeses, has to be hell yes. So sometimes I may even right. It's like, what is my hell yes? Mind, heart, and gut. And then it's like, do I have permission for some things? Because I have that spiritual bent of like, is this it? Is this it with my number one connectedness? So sometimes it's that also. It's like making sure you're listening to your intuition and the warning. Like I want it to be a hell yes. And then I hear back here and it's like, no, don't open that door. Okay. One more in here and then I have to hop off, and let's see here. We have Galaxy S9. Do we have a name for Galaxy S9? We have learner, harmony, responsibility, restorative, and deliberative. Awesome. Okay, so hosting classes, coming to classes. Okay, great. So this is beautiful. Yes, 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 yes. So deliberative is working against you and working for you at the same time. So I would say, I'm not sure whose these are that's in here. If you want to unmute and tell me your name, but you might be on your phone and can't. Let me see if it shows me a phone number. Okay.
Hi, Kay. It's Linda.
Okay, Linda, great. So Linda, there's enrollment. And so like, what are you enrolling people into? That's what I want to know. So people are like, we're enrolling people all the time. Like what am I enrolling you right now? I'm enrolling into a language that I find really resourceful. And I'm enrolling you into, today I'm enrolling you into, wow, she's generous. She's giving that away for 99 cents. Or maybe not, or wow, that might not have as much value. It's 99 cents. But I'm enrolling, right? All of our little thought bubbles of what's happening. About what are you enrolling people into is the biggest question. Because if they don't want to do classes, or if there's low attendance, that's low engagement, then we need to learn how to create that curiosity. And with, yeah, go ahead.
It's enrolling people to be interested in natural solutions, to help them, empower them to take charge of their own health without, I'm a physician, but I believe in natural solutions. So I know the downside of synthetic medication. So I'm trying to, I guess, enroll people into that mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So my gut on this is there's with responsibility, restorative, and deliberative, that energy there's like a deep level of care with deliberative responsibility, like a deep caring. And I would guess that people aren't always reading that they're hearing so this is where we want to do like a 4-domain map of the learner is in strategic thinking, harmony is relationship, responsibility, restorative, and deliberative are executing. So you have 4 out of your top 5, which is task energy. And in enrollment and pulling people in together, we have to look at what way of being do we want people to experience this? How do you want to be described? That's what I want you to do this week, and maybe you could journal on that or message me. How do I want people to describe me? So make it less about what you're going to be delivering the day of your class and more about what do you want that experience and impact to be. So shifting from how that's happening, which is natural solutions, but what's the outcome of that natural solutions? What is it that you're so fired up and passionate about? And then who do you love having these conversations with? Who have you enrolled and it worked? And what were the ingredients of that? And who have you partnered really well with and enjoyed hosting a class with? And because you want to get really, really clear at what was happening with your strengths there, so you can dial up and down your energies to have that outcome. Obviously, this is like a larger coaching context that we would need to have on that, but focusing, just knowing like, oh yeah, people experience me as task-oriented and process-oriented, and I need to be aware and intentional about how I want to be perceived. Do I want to be, what energy am I coming in on before I land that plane? And also,
okay, I got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I'm definitely signing up for your class.
Awesome. I would love to have you. And we have one of our strengths mentors is number 1 deliberative in there. And so and with responsibility. So there's a lot of people that have had some breakthroughs in some of those themes and a level of awareness. So the dialogue should be great. Would love to have you in there. And also for, as far as a larger enrollment conversation, you can always schedule a coaching session at any time with any of the coaches in there or me. Awesome. Okay. Well, I do have to go now. We stayed over, but I'm so glad. Was this helpful? Was it helpful to stay in a little bit? I wanted to land the plane a little bit. There's some people that just need to go take the assessment, but most of you have already had, taken the test, and that's why you're in our group. And it's we'll try to do some more of these types of things, but really Spark it's live like this every month. So it's a really great opportunity for you to come in. I don't expect you to be marinating in it 24/7, but I do want you to set the conditions for your success and figure out, where are you the most authentic? Where do you feel the most free? And remembering that all of those people around you have very different needs. So use this tool to start understanding and connecting in deeper ways. It can be so, so powerful. And I will be posting the code in, so yes, if you go to my website, katepintor.com, and go to Spark, and I will actually, let me see if I can pull the code up while I'm here with you. That way you are not wondering. And the coupon code for this for today is, I'm writing it in the chat box here. Okay, it's RYQRUN. So if you go to katepintor.com and click on Spark Your Strengths, scroll down and click on Spark Your Strengths, and then use this code, and you will get in for 99 cents. And you can share it and with anybody through today, and bring your people with you. You will learn how to make a team grid. You will learn about how to access your board of directors. You'll have accountability and support with the Strengths mentors in there to stay on this journey together. If you have any problem with that code, let me know. We did test it and it did work, so we should be good to go. But as always, just reach out and enjoy your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.